They say you should never block a man's path home. I spent 8 years in the Marines dismantling IEDs in Afghanistan, where reading threats and documenting evidence meant the difference between life and death. But I never thought those skills would matter in a quiet Virginia suburb, until a white Lexus parked sideways across my street. The woman behind the wheel was Verena Lockridge, HOA president. Married to a contractor, used to getting her way. She saw a quiet veteran living alone in his dead father's house, someone she could intimidate into silence. What she didn't see coming was a man trained to dismantle corrupt systems with the same precision he used on bombs. Comment below where you're watching from, because I need to know if HOAs everywhere are this broken, or if I just drew the worst hand possible. The Ford F-150 rolled down Oak Ridge Drive at exactly 15 miles per hour, the way I'd driven it every evening for 6 months. October light slanted through the oak trees, amber and thick, casting long shadows across the asphalt. I'd spent 8 years dismantling IEDs in Afghanistan, and the one skill that kept me alive was noticing when patterns broke, when silence shifted from peaceful to dangerous. That instinct kicked in the moment I saw the white Lexus slide into my lane and stop dead center, blocking my path home. Not drifting, not confused, deliberate. I eased off the gas, let the truck coast to a stop 10 feet back. Hands loose on the wheel. 3 seconds passed, then 6. The Lexus didn't move. Through the windshield, I could see blonde hair, a pale hand gripping the steering wheel. Someone waiting for my reaction. I didn't give her one. The neighborhood was too quiet for 5:45 on a Friday. No kids, no dogs, no neighbors. Everyone had suddenly found somewhere else to be. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, heels clicking on asphalt, navy blazer sharp, like she'd dressed for a courtroom instead of a suburban street. She walked toward my truck with practiced confidence, the kind that comes from rehearsing confrontations and winning them. I'd seen officers use that stride, the ones who confused rank with authority. I rolled down my window. Her name was Verena Lockridge, HOA president. I knew that from the welcome packet 6 months ago when I moved into my father's house. 47 pages of community guidelines I'd read cover to cover because avoiding conflict mattered more than being right. She smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. "Mr. Aldrin," she said, voice sweet with that fake southern warmth that's all sugar over poison. "We need to talk about your property." She held up a white envelope like it were a warrant. I didn't reach for it. I kept my hands on the wheel, face neutral, breathing even. The first person to react usually loses. She waited, smile tightening when I didn't jump. Finally, she stepped closer, thrust the envelope toward my window. "You received the first notice last week," she said, sugar evaporating fast. "This is your second. Landscape Maintenance Clause, Section 3.4. Weeds exceeding 4 inches in your front yard. Shrubbery obstructing the pedestrian sightline." I took the envelope slowly, keeping my eyes on hers. No sudden moves, no aggression. Just a man accepting mail on a Friday evening. "I mowed 3 days ago," I said, voice level and quiet. "There are no weeds." She laughed, sharp and brittle. "Mr. Aldrin, the board voted. The photographs are in the packet. You have 10 days to remedy the violations, or the fine escalates." She turned before I could respond, heels clicking back to her Lexus, movements quick like she'd gotten what she came for. I sat there after she drove away, envelope in my lap, watching her tail lights disappear. She didn't speed. She drove slowly, deliberately, making sure every neighbor saw her leave. Curtains twitched at number 49. A shadow moved at 51. Everyone watching. No one is coming out. Inside the house, I opened the envelope. HOA letterhead. Verena's signature in looping script at the bottom. Violation number 2024-047. Fine of $150. 10 business days to remedy, or penalties escalate by $50 per week. Attached was a photograph of my front yard, bottom left corner, a clump of weeds about 5 inches tall. I looked at the timestamp. October 9th, 7:03 a.m. Today was October 18th, 9 days ago. I pulled out my phone, opened my gallery, and found October 12th. Same yard, same angle. No weeds. I'd pulled them that Saturday. Spent an hour on my knees with a hand trowel getting every root. The HOA photo was outdated, deliberately chosen to fabricate a violation that no longer existed. My photo timestamp read, October 12th, 9:14 a.m., 4 days after theirs. 4 days of proof that they were lying. I opened my laptop, created a spreadsheet titled HOA Documentation. First row, date, event, evidence, notes. October 18th, received second notice. Photo timestamp mismatch. Verena used an outdated image to manufacture the current violation. Saved the file. Backed it up to 3 locations. Evidence chains mattered. Truth mattered. Especially when someone was building a lie with official paperwork and expecting you to pay for it. Outside, streetlights flickered on. I stood at the window, coffee growing cold, looking at the house where the curtains had stopped moving. My father lived here for 30 years. Told me before he died that this neighborhood used to feel like family. My brother Derek died in Kandahar because someone didn't follow procedure, didn't double-check intel, didn't care about the truth. And Verena Lockridge had just handed me a lie wrapped in HOA letterhead, expecting me to fold, pay, and disappear like whoever came before me. She'd made a mistake, not blocking my road, not handing me that envelope. Her mistake was thinking I wouldn't check, that I'd see official paperwork and just comply. But I'd worked a job where missing details meant body bags, where the gap between right and wrong wasn't negotiable. I wasn't starting compromises now. I finished my coffee, closed the laptop, and locked the door. If Verena wanted a fight over truth versus intimidation, over evidence versus convenient lies, she'd picked the wrong driveway to block. Tomorrow I'd start building the case. Tonight, I'd let her think she'd won. The certified mail envelope sat in my mailbox on Monday morning like a coiled spring. Yellow paper, red lettering. Official notice signature required stamped across the front. I pulled it out. Felt the weight, thicker than the first. Down the street, the white Lexus sat parked at the corner. Engine off. Someone is inside watching. I didn't look directly at it. I just turned, walked back inside, and closed the door. 4 pages this time. Pinewood Meadows, HOA letterhead on every sheet. Verena's signature at the bottom. Final notice. Violation still unresolved as of October 21st. Total fine, now $150. Due October 31st. Failure to comply would result in additional fines of $50 per week. Referral to legal counsel, and placement of a lien on the property per Virginia Code Section 55.1-1959. I read that line twice. A lien, in my father's house, for weeds that didn't exist. I opened my laptop, pulled up the state code. Section 55.1-1959 was clear. HOAs could place liens only after specific conditions, notice 14 days before a hearing. An actual hearing where the homeowner presents evidence. Fines exceeding $250 or unpaid for 60 days. None of those applied. Verena was threatening something she had no legal authority to do. I added the letter to my evidence file, photographed every page, and noted the violation of procedure. Then I opened the HOA bylaws and found Section 7. Before issuing fines over $100, the board must provide a hearing notice, conduct that hearing, and record minutes signed by 3 members. She'd skipped every step. My phone rang at 9:37. Unknown number. Local area code. Mr. Aldrin. Male voice. Slow southern drawl. This is Deputy Marcus Shaw, Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. We received a complaint about a disturbance at your address. Are you home right now? I looked out the window. The Lexus was still there, and now the door opened. Verena stepped out, phone pressed to her ear, eyes locked on my house. What kind of disturbance? I asked, keeping my voice level. A neighbor reported aggressive behavior and possible threats. We'd like to come by and talk. I agreed, changed into a clean navy polo, the kind I wore to work. When authority shows up, you control what they see first. Appearance matters. Tone matters. The sheriff's SUV arrived 14 minutes later. 2 deputies. Shaw, older, and thick-built with mirrored sunglasses, and his partner, Torres, younger with sharp eyes and a hand near her belt. I stepped onto the porch before they reached the door, hands visible, posture relaxed. Shaw pulled out a notepad. "We got a report about a confrontation last Friday. Can you tell me what happened?" I kept my voice even. "A woman parked across the road, blocking my path. She got out, handed me a notice about my property, then left. No confrontation, no threats." Shaw wrote something down. "Did you raise your voice?" "No, sir." "Any physical contact?" "None." She handed me an envelope. I took it. Torres spoke up. "Do you own any firearms?" "Mr. Aldrin." I'd expected this. "Yeah, ma'am. I have a concealed carry permit. 1 Glock 19. Registered. Stored in a gun safe." Shaw nodded. "Were you carrying that day?" "No, sir. I don't carry around the neighborhood." Shaw flipped a page. "The report mentioned you're a former military. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir. Marines. EOD. 2009 to 2017. His expression softened slightly. "Thank you for your service." Then came the trap question. "Do you have any history of PTSD or mental health issues we should know about?" I chose my words carefully. "I have regular follow-ups with the VA. No diagnosis that affects my ability to live normally." Shaw wrote it down, tucked the notepad away. "We'll file this as a welfare check. No action needed. If anything escalates, call us directly." He handed me a card. I thanked him. They drove away. The Lexus was already gone, disappeared during the conversation. But the message had been delivered. Verena could bring law enforcement to my door whenever she wanted. Inside, I updated my documentation. October 21st, sheriff welfare check, anonymous complaint. Verena visible on phone, immediately before call. Then I composed an email to Loudoun County Code Enforcement requesting an independent inspection to verify whether any violations actually existed. Professional, factual, no emotion. I hit send at 10:42. Next, I called an HOA attorney downtown, Carter and Monroe. The receptionist scheduled me for Wednesday at 10 a.m. The pieces were moving. Every threat Verena escalated. Every procedure she violated. I was documenting, not with anger, with evidence. My phone buzzed that afternoon. Email from Pinewood Meadows HOA. Subject line, property inspection scheduled. An HOA-authorized inspector would access my property on October 25th at 10 a.m. to photograph and document violations. My presence not required. Refusal to allow access may result in additional fines. The email was deliberately vague, implying they could enter anywhere. I opened the bylaws, found Section 9.2. The board could inspect exterior property with 72-hour notice. Interior access required homeowner consent or court order. I wrote back immediately, polite but firm, citing the exact bylaw. Exterior inspection allowed with proper notice. Interior access denied without consent or court order. I hit send, closed the laptop, stood at the window looking at the street where neighbors had watched Verena confront me, where deputies had questioned me, where every interaction was designed to isolate me. But I wasn't isolated. I had the bylaws, the code, the timestamps, the photographs. I had documentation that told a different story than the one Verena was writing. Tomorrow, I'd meet with the lawyer. Tonight, I'd make sure every door was locked. Because I'd learned in Afghanistan that right before things exploded, everything got very, very quiet. And standing there in my father's house, watching shadows stretch across the lawn, I'd maintained exactly to code. I could feel that quiet settling in. Verena thought she was tightening a noose. What she didn't realize was that every move she made, I was building the case that would hang her instead. The county inspector's Ford Explorer pulled up Friday morning at 9:53, 7 minutes early. I'd been awake since 5. Coffee made, documentation printed and organized in a folder on the kitchen table. Carlos Mendez stepped out wearing a yellow safety vest, clipboard in hand. I met him at the door. "Mr. Aldrin." I nodded. "Thanks for coming out." He gestured toward the yard. "Let me see what we're dealing with." I followed but stayed back, giving him space. Mendez knelt in 3 spots, measured grass height, checked the azalea bushes, and made notes. 11 minutes total. When he finished, he walked back to the porch. "Mr. Aldrin, I'm not finding any county code violations. Grass averages 2.5 inches. We allow up to 12. Shrubbery's 30 inches. Doesn't obstruct anything." He tapped his pen on the clipboard. "I'll file an official report. You can use it to dispute the HOA claims." Relief hit. Controlled, but real. "I appreciate that." Mendez lowered his voice. "Off the record, some HOAs operate fairly, some don't. If you're being targeted, document everything and don't back down." He handed me a card. "Report will be emailed by the end of the day." We shook hands. He drove away. I stood watching his truck disappear, feeling the first solid validation all week. An independent official confirming what I knew. No violations existed. I checked my phone. 10:14. An email notification from Pinewood Meadows Community Group. Timestamp 9:47. Sent before Mendez even arrived. A post from Verena Lockridge shared to 142 members. "I want to address a concerning situation. This morning, the sheriff's office visited one of our neighbors due to reports of aggressive behavior. While I can't share details out of respect for privacy, our community's safety comes first. If you see anything unusual, contact the HOA or authorities. We have children in these streets. Let's look out for one another." She'd posted before the inspection, already spinning a narrative painting me as dangerous. The comments were worse. Linda Kowalski asked who it was. Verena said she couldn't say, but everyone should be cautious. Mark Jennings mentioned the sheriff at 47 Oak Ridge. Verena confirmed, told people to use judgment and stay safe. Sandra Lee asked if she should avoid my house while walking her dog. Verena told her to stay aware. No names, no direct accusations, just careful language designed to make neighbors afraid without saying why. Aggressive behavior, concerning the situation. Safety first. Words that stick. Spread. Turn neighbors into witnesses for something that never happened. I screenshot everything with timestamps visible and saved it. Then I opened my truck's dash cam footage from October 18th. 2-channel system records everything when the engine runs. The file played. 17:42, my truck rolling down Oak Ridge at 15 miles per hour. 17:42 and 34 seconds. A white Lexus enters the frame and stops dead center, blocking the road. My truck stops 10 feet back. I sit motionless. Don't honk. Just wait. 17:43. Verena's door opens. She walks toward me, body language aggressive, leaning forward. 17:44. I roll down the window. She talks and gestures with the envelope. I take it slowly, turn away, and close the window. 17:44 and 51 seconds. Verena stands in the road, 6 more seconds before returning to her car. 17:45. My truck pulls into the driveway. The video was clear. She blocked my path first, approached my vehicle, and initiated contact. I responded by accepting mail and leaving. No aggression, no threats, no confrontation. I exported the file, made backup copies, and added it to evidence with a note. Dashcam proves Verena blocked the road first. I responded passively, contradicting her aggressive behavior narrative. My phone rang. David Carter, the attorney. "Mr. Aldrin, I reviewed your documents. Strong case. Verena violated multiple bylaws and state codes with the fake photos and improper procedures." He paused. "But her attorney just sent me a letter. Whitmore and Associates. They're threatening to sue you for defamation and harassment if you don't retract your complaints and stop contacting HOA members." I sat down. I haven't contacted anyone except Ellen Briggs briefly. Carter's voice stayed steady. "I know. This is a slap threat. Strategic lawsuit against public participation, designed to intimidate you into silence. Virginia has anti-slap statutes protecting people who file legitimate government complaints. If they sue, we get it dismissed and they pay your fees. But the threat is meant to scare you." I said I wasn't scared. Carter chuckled. "Didn't think so. I'll respond making clear you're exercising protected speech. Keep documenting. Don't post online. Don't confront anyone. Let them make mistakes." That evening, I sat on the back porch reviewing HOA financial records from their website. Public documents buried under submenus most people never clicked. I found the landscaping contract with Greenfield LLC, Marcus Lockridge's company, $42,000 per year. I cross-referenced average rates for 52 home communities in Loudoun County. The going rate was $18,000 to $25,000. Greenfield charged nearly double. I pulled up board meeting minutes from January 2021 when the contract was approved. 5 members listed are present: Verena, Patricia Morgan, Robert Hayes, and Ellen Briggs. Daniel Cooper marked absent. The vote was 3-1. Ellen voting no, Verena abstaining for a conflict of interest. But the bylaws required a quorum of all 5 members for contracts over $10,000, or a minimum of 4, with a written proxy from absent members. No proxy from Cooper existed. The vote wasn't legal. The contract was void. I leaned back, watching the sunset through the trees. Verena approved a contract with her husband's company, overcharged the community $20,000 yearly for 3 years, and did it all with an illegal vote, $60,000 minimum. When I moved in and became someone who might read documents and notice discrepancies, I became a problem needing removal. The fake violations, sheriff visits, and community posts weren't about weeds or safety. They were about silencing someone who'd seen too much. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You made a mistake filing that complaint. You don't know who you're dealing with." I stared 10 seconds. Screenshot it. Forwarded to Carter with a note about an anonymous threat received on October 25 at 8:31 p.m., then blocked the number. I wasn't afraid of texts. I'd faced worse, but I was angry now. The cold, focused kind. They wanted me gone because I found their scheme. Thought intimidation and lawyers would make me fold. They were wrong. I opened my laptop, drafted an email to the Virginia Common Interest Community Board, formal complaint detailing conflict of interest violations, fraudulent billing, and bylaw violations. Attached is every piece of evidence collected. Hit send at 9:07 p.m. The fight was no longer just about my house. It was about accountability. And I wasn't stopping until everyone knew exactly what Verena Lockridge and her husband had been doing with community money while threatening anyone who dared to ask questions. Tuesday afternoon, I sat in the Leesburg Public Library, 3rd floor, corner desk, laptop open, and a cold cup of coffee beside me. I'd driven here instead of working from home because I wanted a public record of my research. Timestamps from a government network showing I was gathering information legally and transparently. The library clock read 2:37 p.m. Around me, students studied for exams, retirees browsed newspapers, and mothers read to children in the kids section downstairs. Normal life continued while I built a case that could dismantle an HOA board. I had 3 PDF files open on my screen. The Pinewood Meadows HOA Financial Report for 2023, 47 pages of income, expenses, and contractor payments. The Virginia State Corporation Commission business license for Greenfield Landscaping LLC, showing Marcus Lockridge as registered agent and sole owner, and a spreadsheet I'd compiled from Loudoun County government websites showing average contractor rates for communities our size. I opened Excel, created a new workbook titled HOA Financial Audit, and started building the comparison. First sheet, HOA maintenance contracts. I found the line item on page 22 of the financial report. Landscape Maintenance Annual Contract. Greenfield Landscaping LLC. $42,000. Scope of work, including lawn mowing bi-weekly, hedge trimming monthly, mulch replenishment quarterly, and irrigation system maintenance quarterly. I typed the numbers into my spreadsheet. Then I pulled up the county averages. For 52 homes like Pinewood Meadows, typical landscape maintenance ran $18,000 to $25,000 yearly. I chose the middle, $21,500. Conservative estimate. The math was simple. Greenfield charged $42,000. Market average was $21,500. Overpayment of $20,500 per year. Multiply by 3 years since contract started in 2021. Total overpayment, $61,500. I broke it down further. Lawn mowing 26 times yearly. Greenfield billed $26,000 total. The market rate was $13,000. Hedge trimming 12 times. Greenfield billed $9,600. Market was $4,800. Mulch replacement quarterly. Greenfield billed $4,000. Market was $2,400. Every single line item was inflated between 80 and 100% above normal rates. I saved the spreadsheet, created a second sheet for supporting documentation. Next, I opened the HOA board meeting minutes from November 2020, when the contract was discussed. The minutes showed Verena presented 3 bids to the board: Greenfield Landscaping at $42,000, a Plus Lawn Care at $23,000, and Premier Grounds at $26,000. According to the minutes, Verena told the board that Greenfield had the best reputation and quality mattered more than cost. Ellen Briggs asked why Greenfield's bid was 80% higher. Verena responded that quality costs money and they wanted the best for their community. The vote happened in January, 3-1, Ellen dissenting, Verena abstaining. But here's what the minutes didn't show. Verena participated in the November discussion, presented the bids, advocated for Greenfield, and shaped the board's perception before the January vote. Virginia Code Section 55.1-1816 was explicit. Board members with direct financial interest couldn't participate in contract discussions or negotiations, not just voting. Abstaining from the vote didn't satisfy the ethical requirement if she'd already influenced the decision. I screenshot the relevant pages, highlighted Verena's statements in the November minutes, saved everything to a folder labeled Conflict of Interest Evidence. I pulled up the payment records next, a separate Excel file the HOA posted quarterly, showing every check written. I filtered for Greenfield Landscaping, found 12 payments in 2024 alone, 1 per month at $3,500 each, standard monthly retainer. But when I opened the attached invoices, problems appeared immediately. Invoice number GL-2024-01, dated January 15th, claimed services performed, including mowing 52 front lawns, trimming hedges at 12 properties, replenishing mulch at the playground area. No photographs of completed work, no before and after documentation, just line items and a total. I opened Google Maps, searched Pinewood Meadows, switched to Street View, and dragged the timeline slider to January 2024. The images loaded slowly, panoramic views of our neighborhood captured by Google's camera car in January. I zoomed in on lawns. Many showed grass overgrown, not freshly mowed. The playground mulch looked faded and sparse, not recently replenished. The invoice claimed work completed that Google's cameras suggested hadn't happened, or at least hadn't happened to the standard being billed. I screenshot 6 different street views, noted the dates, and added them to the evidence with a note. Invoice claims versus photographic record. Discrepancy suggests incomplete or fraudulent billing. An hour later, I had 12 spreadsheet tabs, 43 pages of documentation, and a pattern so clear it felt like reading a training manual on corruption. Greenfield overcharged consistently, billed for work not fully performed, operated under a contract approved through improper procedures, and paid kickbacks that likely funneled back to Verena through her marriage to Marcus. The money wasn't huge by corporate standards, but for a small HOA it was massive. $61,000 over 3 years, stolen from homeowners through inflated contracts and fake invoices. I closed my laptop, rubbed my eyes, and looked out the library window at downtown Leesburg. Traffic moved slowly past Courthouse Square, people walking dogs, couples having coffee at outdoor tables. Peaceful, normal, the kind of place where you'd never suspect the HOA president was running a grift. My phone buzzed. Text from Ellen Briggs. "Can we talk?" "It's important," I replied, asking when and where. She suggested her house. Tonight at 7. Back entrance, so neighbors wouldn't see. I agreed. At 6:55, I parked 2 streets over and walked through the greenway path that connected to Ellen's backyard. She was waiting by the fence, arms crossed, looking nervous. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. We went inside through the back door, into her kitchen, where papers covered the table. HOA documents, meeting minutes, and financial reports, all marked with highlighter and sticky notes. "I've been keeping records," Ellen said. "Since 2021, everything that felt wrong, every time Verena pushed something through, every vote that didn't follow procedure." She pointed to a specific page. The Greenfield contract vote. Daniel Cooper was absent that day. No proxy. I voted no. Patricia, Robert, and Hayes voted yes. Verena abstained. But look at this. She handed me another document, an email chain from December 2020. Verena writes to Patricia, Robert, and Cooper. Subject line January meeting agenda. The email discussed the landscaping contract, how important it was to approve quality vendors, and how Greenfield's higher price reflected their superior service. She copied all 3 board members who later voted yes, setting expectations, framing the decision before the meeting even happened. She influenced them beforehand, Ellen said, then claimed she stayed neutral by abstaining. But the damage was done. She picked the votes she needed, worked them individually, and made sure the outcome was decided before we ever sat down. I photographed the email chain, added it to my evidence. Why are you showing me this now? I asked. Ellen looked tired. Because Verena called me yesterday, told me there's an emergency board meeting on October 30th to discuss your membership status. She wants to vote you out, expel you from the HOA, force you to sell. I'm the only board member who might vote no, and she made it very clear that if I don't cooperate, I'll be next. She'll find violations at my house, make my life hell until I resign or move. Ellen's hands shook slightly. I'm scared, but I'm also tired of watching her destroy people who don't fall in line. You're not the first. Mr. Davies in 2022, Mrs. Chen in 2023. Both sold their homes under pressure after Verena targeted them. I asked if she'd testify if it came to that. Ellen hesitated, then nodded. If I'm subpoenaed, if there's legal protection, yes, I'll tell the truth. But I can't do it alone. I have a daughter in college, a mortgage. I can't afford to fight Verena head-on without backup. I understood. You won't be alone, I said. I'm filing complaints with the state, hiring an attorney, documenting everything. When this goes public, you'll have cover. Just hold your ground at the meeting. Vote your conscience. That's all I'm asking. She nodded slowly. I can do that? Walking back through the greenway in the darkness, I thought about what Ellen had said. You're not the first. How many people had Verena pushed out over the years? How many families forced to sell homes they loved because questioning the HOA president's authority became too expensive, too exhausting, too isolating? The fake violations, the community pressure, the threats of fines and liens. It was a system designed to break people's will to resist. And it worked because most people didn't have the training, the temperament, or the stubbornness to fight back with evidence and procedure. But I did. I'd spent 8 years in a job where cutting corners meant people died, where documentation saved lives, where following protocol wasn't bureaucracy, it was survival. Verena thought she was facing a quiet veteran who'd fold under pressure. What she was actually facing was someone who'd built a career on being thorough, methodical, and impossible to intimidate with threats that had no legal foundation. I got home at 8:41, uploaded Ellen's documents to my evidence folder, and updated my spreadsheet with the new information. Then I opened my email and started drafting a message to David Carter. Subject line: Emergency board meeting scheduled for expulsion vote. Need injunction to prevent retaliation. If Verena wanted to escalate, I'd meet her there, but I'd do it with lawyers, evidence, and a documented trail showing exactly who violated rules and who followed them. The meeting was 8 days away. That gave me 8 days to make sure when the board convened. I wasn't walking in defenseless. I was walking in armed with truth. Wednesday morning, I sat across from David Carter in his downtown office, a corner room with windows overlooking the old courthouse. He'd spread my evidence across his conference table like a prosecutor building a case. Financial audits, board minutes, email chains, bylaws with highlighted violations. The dashcam footage queued up on his laptop. 3 hours of documentation lay out in chronological order, telling a story that got worse with every page. This is more than HOA overreach, Carter said, tapping the Greenfield contract analysis. This is systematic fraud. Verena didn't just bend rules. She built an entire apparatus to extract money from your community while silencing anyone who noticed. He pulled up the November 2020 email chain Ellen had given me, the one where Verena lobbied board members before the vote. She violated Virginia Code Section 55.1-1816. Board members can't participate in contract discussions when they have a direct financial interest. Abstaining from the vote doesn't matter if she shaped the decision beforehand. I leaned forward. Can we prove the money went back to her? Carter nodded. We don't have to prove she pocketed cash directly. The law recognizes indirect benefit. Her husband's company got a $61,000 windfall over 3 years. She benefits from that income, whether it's in a joint account or pays their mortgage. The conflict exists regardless of how they structured the money flow. He flipped to another document. But here's what worries me. The emergency meeting on October 30th. Verena's trying to expel you before any investigation gains traction. If she succeeds, you'd be forced to sell, and the new owner won't have standing to challenge the old contracts. She's trying to eliminate the witness. Can she actually expel me? I asked. Carter pulled up the HOA bylaws on his laptop. Section 8.7 allows expulsion only under specific conditions: repeated willful violations, unpaid dues over 180 days, or behavior threatening community safety. You don't meet any of those criteria. The county inspector confirmed no violations exist. You've paid all dues on time. The sheriff found no credible threats. She has no legal grounds. He closed the laptop. But that doesn't mean she won't try. If the board votes to expel you anyway, we file an immediate injunction. I can have that ready to go the morning after the meeting. I thought about the 8 days remaining before October 30th. What else can we do? Carter stood, walked to the window. I've already sent a response to Whitmore and Associates, her attorney, making clear that any lawsuit against you will be met with an anti-SLAPP motion and a countersuit for malicious prosecution. That should slow them down. He turned back. But I'm also filing a complaint with the Virginia State Bar. If Whitmore is helping Verena abuse legal process to intimidate you, that's an ethical violation. Attorneys can't threaten baseless